Hey everybody, today I'm going to be sharing with you my second and final memory keeping week for New Zealand, and it was springtime when we were there, so I decided to use this spring cottage kit from Caress Press because I couldn't find any New Zealand kits out there, but I thought this would match the season, and I kind of just took a gamble because it had sort of like a country mountainside scene in it, and really this ended up matching the week pretty well, especially when we got to see some mountain lupin. So I paired that with a little bit of gold foil from Sadie's Stickers and then lavender and ice foiled underlays from Plantahana. So one of those sheets is called Field of Flowers and one is called Mountain 2. And then I still had some leftover gold foil from the Prairie Planner. I didn't end up using those passport underlays at all. And I still had, obviously, my New Zealand stickers from various shops, which were an anniversary present from my husband last year. And those are all of my character stickers pulled, including a lot of icons from the Caress Press kit. I like that Caress Press kits still include icons. It helps me out a lot. I feel like I have a pretty extensive character collection, but not that extensive. So sometimes it is just nice to go back to basics and what kits initially were intended for, which was to have like almost everything that you need in addition to icons and stuff. So while I'm laying down the base, I'll just kind of give you a general overview of the week. So this was our week on the South Island. So the week prior, we spent on the North Island, so Auckland, Rotorua, Wellington. Monday of this week, we headed from Wellington to Christchurch by plane and went to the Antarctic Center near the airport in Christchurch, and then just generally got ready for the next day, which was visiting Aoraki National Park or Mount Cook National Park. And we stopped in Lake Tekapo on Tuesday, which was gorgeous. I was not expecting it to be that gorgeous. I mean, I was expecting beautiful mountain scenes, but I didn't know that the lupin were going to be in bloom. I think that just slipped my mind. So it was really nice because originally when we planned this trip, we would have been there kind of like mid-summer, their seasons. So I don't know that the flowers would have still been in bloom, but this time of year they were definitely still in bloom. And then we went hiking, my husband and I, on a track there. They call them tracks instead of trails, I think. And we felt kind of rushed just because we were on a group tour, and we started the day with the tour. The Sprinter van had a flat tire, so we had to kill some time there. So it felt a little bit rushed, but a really gorgeous national park. And then Wednesday, we headed from Christchurch to Queenstown, and the flight into Queenstown is just absolutely beautiful. The town itself is gorgeous. It's a very vacation mountain town from what I could gather, and it was gorgeous. It was definitely the best last stop for the trip. And I don't know if I've talked about this already, but we were there for a total of really 13 days, maybe 14 if you're being generous, but 13 non-travel days. And I do feel like we visited 5 cities, which was a lot. I think that's the most I've done in any vacation, especially with moving from hotel to a hotel. I do feel like having 1 day more in each of the 5 cities, so basically stretching the whole trip out to 3 weeks, would have made it better. But also, towards the end of this week, we did start to miss our cats quite a lot. So I don't know. I don't know how many 2-week trips we're really going to do. I think with New Zealand, we felt like we really needed to make it 2 weeks just because you're traveling so far away if you live in the United States. And it's well, we're all the way over here already. We might as well see as much as possible. So anyway, getting back on track with Wednesday, we just kind of hung around Queenstown because the city itself was kind of like a vacation town, if that makes sense. So it made sense to just kind of explore that area. And then originally on the Thursday of this week, we were going to go to Fiordland National Park, but we were looking at the forecast and seeing that it was raining. And our tour guide the next day, we rescheduled it for Friday. I think we made that decision around Monday or Tuesday of this week because I was looking at the forecast and being I don't know if we want to go out in the rain. But actually, the tour might have been just fine in the rain because we were in the bus for most of the tour. And then on the boat, actually, one of the appeals of Milford Sound is the waterfalls. So apparently the people who went on the rainy day, so on Thursday, got quite a show, got very wet, but it It was quite a show of waterfalls. There were still a lot of remnants of that on Friday when we went, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So Thursday, we didn't really have a plan at that point for Thursday because we had rescheduled our tour. So we just kind of meandered around Queenstown and we ended up at Kiwi Park, which is a Department of Conservation site where they take care of a lot of native animals. If you don't know, New Zealand does not have a native mammal, and mostly birds. So with colonization has brought in a lot of invasive mammals that they're trying to stamp out because they want to bring back to life that really vibrant bird environment that they once had naturally. So it was really great to learn all about that, and we got to see a total of like 5 different kiwi that they have in habitation there. They're in special habitats that are set up to be like nighttime so that you can view them, but that it's still like comfortable for them because they're only active during the night, and you're not like allowed to take photos or anything like that because they don't want people's flashes going off and all of that. And I do not blame them at all. It's definitely a place that's more about protecting the animals themselves than it is about like providing you a good tourist experience. So it was still great. But it did start pouring rain while we were there. So we went inside for a little bit they also had like a honeybee exhibit because that's a big part of that region too. So we got like a honey latte, which was really nice. But then we're like, let's go out and see what we can see of the outdoor exhibits. And just kind of walked around with our umbrella. And after a while, it was like, okay, I think we're good. And we went out to a really nice dinner on Thursday in Queenstown. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there. It stopped raining like by the time it was dinner time, so we could walk around still. But I got lamb and my husband got venison because they farm deer in New Zealand, which as a Californian is like funny to me because like we have so many wild deer here because talking about messing up environment, in California, the deer were supposed to have a lot of predators, and then with westward expansion, if you don't know this, we killed off a lot of the wolves, the bears. Like the bear that's on our flag is actually extinct. That's cool, right? No, it's not. So the deer here are kind of out of control. And they tend to get sick more because they don't have a lot of natural predators other than like the mountain lions. So just a little California fun fact for you, if you did not know already. But yeah, Friday, we went on our Fiordland National Park tour and got to go out to Milford Sound, and we did a boat cruise there and also stopped at a few different sightseeing spots along the way. There wasn't any like long hike this day, but lots of beautiful sights, and Milford Sound is just gorgeous. It was sunny this day, but a lot of the waterfalls were still falling because of how much rain had happened the day before, so that was really neat. And then we just had a chill night on Friday night. And then Saturday, it was time to go home. We really were missing our cats, like I said, so we like wanted to get home. We're like, I think 2 weeks is a good amount of time to be home, especially because we had gone to Mexico earlier in the month and had been gone for a long weekend there too. So we're like, we miss the cats. So we said bye to Lake Wakatipu. Yeah, I'm saying that right. Which was near our hotel. Well, actually, it's the whole city like surrounds that area. It's gorgeous. And we made our way out to the Queenstown airport. We had to have a layover at Auckland Airport because we were on an international flight. Our flight was delayed by probably like an hour or so. And what was funny was that in Queenstown, it was bright and sunny this day. And in Auckland, it was absolutely pouring rain. And they had to like bus us out to the tarmac. It was kind of odd. I'm not really sure what that was about, but we finally got on the plane and had like an 11-hour flight home, which is funny because it took like 13 hours to get there. But I guess on the way home, we had the tailwinds in our favor. And so how we broke up the time was that we watched Fellowship of the Ring because it was available on the plane with dinner. And then we slept for like 3 or 4 hours. And then we woke up and watched the Two Towers with breakfast. So, you know, technically we could have fit in Return of the King as well if we just stayed awake the entire time. But we were going to live this day twice because of the international dateline crossing. So we wanted to get a little bit of sleep. And then we got on BART and, oh, it was so easy when we got to SFO. Like, I feel like we were the only international flight arriving at that point. And so we just breezed through customs. It was wild. It's the fastest I've ever, like, gone through US Border Patrol. It was crazy. It was really nice. I'm in love with SFO now. And so then we took the BART up to Richmond from SFO. And my dad was like, we all timed our coordination really well. My dad was waiting for us there, and then he drove us home, which took like longer than it should have because Saturday afternoon on I-80 is just traffic jam central. But then we were reunited with our kitty cats, which was really nice. And then the next day, Sunday, December 1st, we slept for like 12 hours and just kind of got our house back together. So it's kind of a general overview of the week. We'll get into more details when we get into the day by day. In the sidebar, of course, I am tracking my dinner plans. I decided to color block my sidebar to kind of match Thursday. And then later on in that box, I will just put in a kiwi bird from one of my New Zealand sheets. But I'm still not done with the base yet. And I've already kind of talked about the whole week. So I had this Sadie Stickers freebie in gold. So I thought it matched like the springtime of this kit, and it had lots of cute like flower scenes and picket fence scenes and bees and windows, which I thought went well with the fact that at Kiwi Park especially, like we learned about local honey and things like that and how important it was. I guess I can't remember if like Manuka honey is from there. If that was what I learned. Don't remember. Oh, I bought a Kiwi Park baseball hat because both of us forgot to pack hats on this trip, and we both are big hat wearers when we go hiking. So Nathan bought a cable car Wellington cable car hat when we were in Wellington the week before, and then I bought a Kiwi Park baseball hat. And it's not like I don't have hats, but I love that place so much. It was so funny to see the Kiwis like running around in their little habitats because they literally run. Like you don't expect them to be runners. But that's like what they got going for them. That's how they defend themselves, is they got a big long beak, and then they got big giant legs, and that's how they kick off things that are trying to kill them and eat them. And they run so fast, and like you have to like let your eyes adjust for a little while being in the special room that's dark. But then once they do and you like spot one of them and they just like run, it's so funny. So I got that hat there. And then my other souvenir that was technically for the cats, but really was it just for me probably, was I got a little stuffed kiwi that has the little voice box inside that you press it and it shrieks. I don't press it that much because it kind of freaks the cats out. They're not a big fan of it. Because if you don't know, kiwis kind of make a weird noise. Like it's a very like nighttime shrieking. Like I was joking with my sister at some point. I'm like, can you imagine being like the first humans on this island and you're like going to sleep, and then in the middle of the night you hear this like weird sound and you're like, what is that? And it's a kiwi. It's like the weirdest look. They're adorable, but they're such weird looking birds, right? Because they're huge because of how they have to incubate this giant egg inside themselves. Yeah, anyway. I needed this. Like I am very sad that this trip is over because it was something we've been talking about for so long, and it finally happened, and then it was over relatively quickly. And with everything going on in this country, it was kind of like we're very much of the mentality of like we're going to stay and fight for what we want our country to be. Like we're not going anywhere. This is our home. But at the same time, when you go on vacation, it's kind of like, well, what if I just moved here? What if I just ignored everything going on? And there's a lot of places I visited that like I wouldn't consider moving. One of the few places that I've visited and seriously considered moving to was Vancouver, British Columbia. And it's like a very expensive city by Canadian standards, but by California standards, it's like, I could do this. So yeah, that's like the one I've really seriously considered. I don't know if there's like a specific city in New Zealand I would really consider moving to. I loved all of the places that we visited, but I don't know that there's any specific place that I would want to move to. And I don't think they necessarily want me anyway, so I'm going to keep fighting the good fight in California. But anyway, now we are done with the base, so we're going to get started with the day by day. So the first thing on Monday was that we found out our friends got engaged. We were in an Uber on our way to the Wellington airport. So I'm going to use an Uber sticker from the sticker party and a Lord of the Rings sticker from Plana Hannah because one of our friends proposed to our other friend with like a gold ring. And we shared an Airbnb with them for our other friend's wedding this past summer. And so we kind of knew this was going to happen because the person who proposed told us earlier in the year secretly. So we got the news this day and it was so cute. We're like, oh, the world is burning, but at least this is happening. So that was very sweet. And then I graded some papers when we were at the airport, the Wellington airport, and then we flew from there to Christchurch. So the computer is from Alicia Craft and the plane is from Cinderella Paper. And then the International Antarctic Center and like all of like the home bases for any country that visits Antarctica on a regular basis are in Christchurch. So I was like, this could be cool. And it was. Learned about a lot of like the importance of studying Antarctica. And also at this location were penguins. So not like penguins from the South Pole, but New Zealand has a native penguin. It is a little blue penguin, or a korora. I believe that's how you say it. And they have a bunch of rescued ones at this location, like ones that can't really live out in the wild on their own. Like we saw one that only had like 1 foot. There was one that like, I guess her tongue's permanently paralyzed, so they have to feed her in a special way. And I literally just sat there for like an hour. I kept asking my husband, I'm like, you're okay with me just like sitting here watching these penguins swim around, right? He's like, oh yeah. So it was just so nice to just like watch penguins. And then there were other exhibits as well that were fun to go through. So then after that, we Ubered over to our hotel that we were staying in the main central part of Christchurch. So I used a Molly from Itty Bitty Sticker Co. for that. And we needed to do laundry at this point because we've been traveling for over a week. So my husband found a laundromat nearby and took care of that. So that icon's from the kit. And then for dinner, we went to this place called the Church Brew Pub. And it was very packed this night because it was trivia night. But it is an old church that is now a pub. And we got this barbecue pork pizza that was so delicious, probably the best pizza I've had in a really long time. So I used a Beneva Creations beer stein and a church icon from Plannahannah to mark that. Then we had to do some grocery shopping, and then I continued with my obsession with this Australian show called My Kitchen Rules because it was on this night and it was on Tuesday night, and those were the last 2 nights I was able to watch it. And if you missed my last New Zealand plan with me, basically it is a cross between Iron Chef and Real Housewives. That's how I describe it. So that was Monday, and then Tuesday we left on our Aoraki tour. I'm not 100% sure I'm saying that correctly, but I would default to the Maori name over the English name. So I marked that with a map sticker from Itty Bitty Sticker Co. The guy, our tour guide, did get a flat tire. He noticed there was a nail in the tire, so the tire wasn't flat yet, but he was like, we really shouldn't go out there with this. So it took like an hour to get that all sorted out, but I'm glad that he was safety first. Our first stop was at Farley Bakery, so we picked up our lunch there, and then we drove out towards the national park. So our first stop was Lake Tekapo, which was gorgeous, and like I said, all the mountain lupin were in bloom. We got some really incredible photos. I overdressed for this day. I thought it was going to be cold out there, and it's actually like almost 80 degrees, so I was sweating just a bit. And then my husband and I went hiking, so we got dropped off at the Hooker Valley track, and we didn't do the whole track, both because we were getting tired and we were also worried that we weren't going to make it back to the tour bus in time. So I guess if we had gone all the way, we would have been able to see like Mount Cook from, or Aoraki from the trail, but we just didn't feel like going that far out. But it was still a really gorgeous track or hike anyway. And then that evening we just got some Thai food takeaway and watched more My Kitchen Rules because we'd been out all day. Wednesday, like I said, we made our way out to Queenstown and we met this lovely British gentleman on the bus. They have the bee-themed card for the bus there, and he was telling us about like what we should see in town and welcoming us. And he's like, oh, you're gonna love it here. This place is for young people. I'm like, because there's a lot of high adventure activities going on in Queenstown. Then we went to a restaurant called Yonder for lunch, and I had this really delicious lamb flatbread that I cannot stop thinking about. Everything we ate in Queenstown was really good. I had a Zoom office hour for work. I did less work this week just because it was the American holidays, so I would have taken this time off anyway. And then we checked into our hotel, the Heritage Queenstown, which is kind of like outside of the main tourist area. So there was this giant hill that we had to climb up and down unless we took the bus, but it was a really cute hotel. And for dinner, we went to this place called the World Bar, and I had a really great burger. This week was more focused on probably Western foods. Last week, we ate a lot of Asian foods, like I said. And then I was just really exhausted that night. So I marked that with a Molly from Itty Bitty Sticker Co. If you have any questions about where stickers are from, just let me know. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because I would rather talk about the stories from this week. Thursday was Thanksgiving, so that script is from Planet Hannah. We did sleep in this day since we had rescheduled our tour and we didn't have any like set plans for this day. So we just had some coffee on the balcony. So I used an icon from the kit to mark that. And then we did some souvenir shopping and also went to a pharmacy because I needed nail glue at this point to like glue back on a press-on nail that I had. We had lunch at this really cute rooftop bar. We got like these poke bowls there, which were surprisingly really good for a bar, but you could see like the view of the mountainside in Queenstown from this rooftop bar, so that was really nice. And then after that, we made our way up the hill to Kiwi Park because a lot of cities in New Zealand are like this, but like you really have to climb up hills to get places or take a bus or something. But we climbed up there. It was really great, and I was just so delighted. So that munchkin really represents how I felt about the kiwi, all the other birds that were there. We learned about the tuatara, which is like they called it the living fossil. Like it really hasn't evolved or changed much past like its original animal, so they have one there. And then I marked that it was raining with this cute little Molly from Itty Bitty Sticker Co. I was so delighted to be there. I love animal related stuff. Like I did a whole Instagram post just dedicated to birds on my personal account, like all the photos I took of birds or bird related stuff in New Zealand. And I didn't know this, but I bought Allbirds sneakers this year for both our Mexico and this trip in mind. And first of all, they're so comfortable. I recommend them so much. But I didn't know they were originally designed by a New Zealander. So that's cool. And it's called Allbirds because that's originally what New Zealand was they just had birds. So yeah, that evening, I marked getting ready for dinner, and we had a pretty late dinner reservation at Botswana Butchery. So before that, we walked around the Queenstown Gardens, which are gorgeous. Like lots of things were in bloom because it was springtime. So I marked that with a Carly Plans rose. And then we went to dinner. And like I said, I got the lamb loin and my husband got the venison loin. And before that, we got oysters and I tried some of the local Pinot Noir. And it was probably one of like the best meals of my life. It was so good. So I marked that with a Cinderella paper like place setting sticker. Friday was Black Friday. I don't really care that much, but I had a script from Planet Hannah for it, so I marked it. And then we left for our Fiordland National Park tour, so I used another map Molly for that. Our first stop was in a town called Tianau? I'm not sure, which has its own lake associated with it. So we weren't there for very long. We were just picking up coffee or snacks or whatever you wanted to pick up, but it was very pretty. And then as we went into the national park, our first stop was Eglinton Valley, which was beautiful, a great way to get a view of some of the mountains. We also stopped at a location called the Mirror Lakes, which were very pretty. And then the main attraction was Milford Sound or Piopiotahi. And I think I mentioned this in my monthly plan with me, but our tour guide majored in geology and used to be a school teacher, and so he has opinions about calling it Milford Sound. He's like, it's called Fiordland National Park, and Milford Sound is technically a fjord, so it's really Milford Fjord, but I'll stop going on about that. And I'm like, no, you're right, dude. I trust you. So I marked that the boat cruise with a Wonton and a Million sticker. We saw a couple of, I think they were not crested penguins. What are those ones called? They have the spikies on their head. That's a really technical term, Jessica. So we saw those. We saw some seals that are native to New Zealand. I forget if they're just called New Zealand seals, but they're a little bit smaller. So we saw a lot of wildlife, and the waterfalls were incredible. And it was a beautiful day for a little boat cruise. I was worried about getting sick on the boat because a lot of times lately when I've been on boats, I get seasick. But that didn't happen this time. So love that. And then our last stop of the day was Monkey Creek, which I marked with a little dog sticker from Fox and Cactus because it is named after a geologist, I think it was a geologist dog who got lost in that area. And then he went back to that area the next day or something, and his dog came back. So that's why it's called Monkey Creek, because his dog was named Monkey. Well done. And then the last thing I marked on Friday was that we had dinner at the hotel restaurant, which was called Mackenzie's. So we had a voucher for a free complimentary drink. And then because we didn't get housekeeping each day, they gave us a voucher for food too. So our meal that night was pretty cheap. And then we did take a bath. I'm not really a bath person, but my husband kind of is. So I tried, but then I was just getting too warm. So I abandoned that. And then Saturday was Small Business Saturday. Again, I really only marked it because I had this script from Planet Hannah. It said bye to Lake Wakatipu. So I used a little hiking munchkin for that because we were wearing like our big backpacks. I went to New Zealand with a big backpacking backpack and then my smaller work backpack. And so I would carry like the smaller backpack in the front and the bigger backpack in the back. And that is like my preferred way to travel because roller bags, I feel like I always trip over something. So I'd rather just have everything like belted onto myself. At the Queenstown airport, we hung out at a restaurant called Airspresso for a little bit before our flight because we were there pretty early. And then I marked our flight from Queenstown to Auckland with a luggage sticker from Cinderella paper. I did some souvenir shopping, especially because I had my assignment for Secret Santa, for Sibling Secret Santa this year. And then we had like about an hour flight delay. And I marked this with like the angel on her shoulder, devil on her shoulder, Molly, just because people were being really impatient and it was questioning my own reality too. Not my own reality, my own morality and like my own impatience. I'm like, they're not going to leave without us. Like, we're going to get home eventually. But yeah, it was just, I don't know. People act weird at the airport, in my opinion. And I'm just like, we'll get there when we get there. That's all I can say. Then we flew from Auckland to San Francisco. And that was when we were watching the 2 Lord of the Rings movies. So I marked that with a little icon from Planet Hannah. And I did have to write in everything on that extender before I put the stickers down because I've learned the hard way with extenders that they're really difficult to write on. So I think it's technically like a Seattle Metro or monorail sticker, but it looked like Bart to me. So I used that for taking Bart back to Richmond. I wrote in that we lived today twice because we crossed the international date line going back. So it was the same day when we got back. My dad picked us up and then we were reunited with the cats. So I have a Molly and then a Beneva Creations sticker for those 2 things. Sunday, I marked sleeping for 12 whole hours and cuddling Evie cat, so our older cat, with 2 Beneva Creations cat stickers. And then I just kind of tidied up the house. I was kind of embarrassed. I realized like we had left so much food in the fridge that went bad while we were gone. And like our friends were taking care of our house, multiple friends. And I'm like, that's kind of embarrassing because it actually smelled. So I had to clean up the house. So I used a spray bottle from the kit and a clean script that I'll pull later. I was doing some lesson planning because I needed to. I had class the next morning. And then I stopped by my friend Taylor's to get my house key back because she had been one of the people stopping by and checking on our cats. I just used a bow icon from the kit for that. And then I put together this gingerbread cat house that my sister gave me for Christmas last year, but it was like way after Christmas that she finally got it to me. So that's no fault of her own. I was in the middle of moving. So I marked that with a Molly. I also marked watching Great British Bake Off and then just cuddling with a bunch of Mollies as well. So that is the week. I absolutely love how this turned out, especially with like all the little bee foil that I added to the scene on Thursday and Friday. I thought that was very fitting. And here's where I'm going to put in the little kiwi sticker. So on the previous week, I put in the Kiora sticker just to kind of like mark that we were starting our New Zealand trip, and I thought it was appropriate to use a kiwi bird to mark ending our New Zealand trip. So I miss this week so much. This is what's left over of the kit. I am slightly grumpy right now because I don't really have any travel planned at the moment, and I really could use something to look forward to, but I will figure it out. We will figure it out. And, I always try to remember, like, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And this was a dream come true after a lot of planning, after a lot of waiting. So I'm gonna smile and be happy that it happened and that I have these memories to look back on, both in my planner as well as on my camera and all of those types of things. So thank you so much for listening to me talk about this trip. It's been really special to share it all with you. And I hope you are doing well. I will talk to you next time. Bye.